Hi, Marta. We're live.
Hi, George. Hi, George. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I'm in my basement here, trying to find a quiet space in my house, and so here I am, down in the darkest, quietest corner of the house.
Well, it looks really nice. I like the new location.
Thanks. Yeah, hopefully it's nice and quiet. So this should be a good webinar today. I know we've got lots of people signed up, which is great.
Yep. Welcome, everyone. We see you in Crowdcast. We see you in chat. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about multi-streaming. But before we get started, we just want to do some quick housekeeping. If you guys have a question, we have a question section. Please post your questions there. We're going to address them at the end. We're also going to have polls for you throughout, so please participate in those in the poll section. And you can also chat at us in the chat box. We're monitoring, we see you, we're going to be reading and replying as well.
That's right. Yeah, I've got Crowdcast open right now, and I'm looking at the numbers. It looks like a good amount of people have registered for this. If you're in here, let us know where you're from. Let us know what you want to know about for the show today, because there's a few different ways we could cover this topic. Of course, we're going to dive into Pearl, which is our all-in-one production switcher, and we use it for multi-streaming on a regular basis, so we'll tell you about how we do that. But you might want to know different ways of multi-streaming, so let us know what you're thinking there.
That's right.
Yeah.
But first, let's just really quickly go over what multi-streaming is, what we mean by that. Multi-streaming is also called simulcasting. That's where you stream one piece of content to many different destinations. And by doing so, you are effectively expanding your reach, right? So you can go live at the same time to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and any other CDN. And by doing that, you're reaching the users of those platforms.
Yeah, we found that out firsthand. Like when we started doing our live show, started doing it, I think, just to Facebook, and then we added YouTube, and we met completely new different people that were on YouTube that weren't on Facebook, and then we added Twitch, and we found different people there, and we've tried LinkedIn as well. So it is kind of fun to reach out and see where you can find your audience.
That's right. That's right. So, George, you say our numbers are good and we can get started?
Sure, let's go.
All right. So, as we mentioned, multi-streaming is just going live to many different destinations, and there are various ways of doing that. And today we're going to discuss very briefly why you would want to multi-stream. Then we are going to go into the various ways to multi-stream, cloud-based solutions, streaming software, and streaming hardware. And once again, at the end, we'll be happy to take your questions. So post them into the questions section, and you can also upvote the questions that you like, so we'll get to those first.
Yeah, it looks like there's a poll already here asking people what sector are you a part of? If you're corporate, education, live events, we'd love to know what you're interested in, where you come from, and
Let us
we'll
know.
try to talk to your use case. I see early on there's a couple of votes in here for corporate, and we'll find out where this lands in a little while. So make sure to check out these polls.
Yep, please let us know, guys. Okay, so very briefly, why multi-stream? If you're here, you probably know you have your reasons. But very quickly, so you can, as we mentioned, reach new audiences, right? You can use multi-streaming for niche streaming as well as mainstream platforms without having to sacrifice anything. So, for example,
What's a niche stream?
so a niche stream would be something very specific to the content, like art content or gaming content, or maybe geographically. So if you want to stream to Russia, for example, there's a platform called VK that you should be streaming to because that's where all the Russians are. For Korea, I think it's called Africa. So that's what I mean by niche. YouTube is pretty global. Facebook is fairly global, so I would say those are more mainstream platforms. But streaming to different platforms, to a mainstream one and to a niche one, that lets you kind of feel out the audience, do some experimenting without having to sacrifice, your main, let's say your YouTube stream, your main pipe. So that's a plus. And by doing so, you can also meet your audience where they already are. So if you know that most of your audience is on Facebook, but you also want to try YouTube as well, multi-stream, and you're going to reach both audiences, and you don't have to be like, hey, YouTube users, go over to Facebook. You don't have to do that. And finally, you can use multi-streaming as a backup method, as a redundancy. So if, let's say, you're streaming to YouTube and Facebook, and something happens to one of those streams at the endpoint, you have the other stream as backup, and you can tell your viewers, in case of an emergency, to go over to the other stream.
Yeah, and that sounds, some people might think that's completely impossible. Like, why would Facebook and YouTube ever go down? They definitely go down, and weird things happen, and suddenly your stream disappears on one platform and not another. So we've learned it is really comfortable to have that second platform.
It's definitely happened to us a few times. Mm-hmm. And you also have that VOD asset after, right? So the stream automatically becomes a recording on the respective platform, and you don't have to re-upload it. You just have it there if you're multi-streaming.
Yeah, it's kind of faster than having to upload it afterwards anyway, because then when you're done, you're totally done.
Right. But just because you can multi-stream doesn't mean you should. So we're not saying like stream to every single platform. That might be a waste of resource. Try stuff out, see where your audience is, see where it makes sense to multi-stream.
Yeah, there's a new poll that just went up, Marta. Let me see here. What's your primary motivation for multi-streaming? We'd like to know why you're thinking about it. Why did you even sign up for this webinar, for that matter? What are you trying to get out of it? So that'll help us figure out what to talk to for the rest of this webinar.
Totally. This actually ties very nicely into our next slide here. So this is just an example of our live show that we do. We do a live show every Thursday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, the Live at Epiphan show. And so, yeah, we're streaming live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch at the same time. And it helps us reach audiences on each respective platform. For example, I heard from our producer that on Twitch, we may not be getting huge viewership, but we're kind of raising our reputation because we're going live regularly. We are also doing this webinar. We're multi-streaming to Crowdcast, which you guys are seeing right now, but we're also doing an unlisted kind of backup stream to YouTube. So we have that asset available on YouTube after. And then if something happens to Crowdcast, God forbid, then we have that asset available on YouTube. YouTube also makes it easier to monitor a little bit because YouTube is pretty fast when it comes to RTMP streaming. So you can see if everything is okay on YouTube, everything is probably going to be okay on other platforms. But if not, then you kind of know where the problem is. So it helps with troubleshooting.
Mm-hmm. There's another thing that I've noticed with multi-streaming is that you kind of learn about your content and where it works and where it doesn't. So we've noticed that for whatever reason, people on YouTube engage with our Live at Epiphan show. It's a 30-minute kind of show. It's longer form kind of content. And on Facebook, honestly, we don't get that many viewers. And I think it's the nature of that platform. So different platforms expect different kinds of content. So sometimes you need to experiment on them just to find out where your content is going to resonate. And maybe it's not the place you want to do it. And so you'll have to like change the way you do programming, do different kinds of content for different kinds of platforms.
For sure. And yeah, please let us know your reasons for multi-streaming. George, maybe someone commented already. Maybe we can learn something interesting about our audience.
Let's see. Well, we do have those polls that went up, and we're seeing a pretty split in terms of what sector people are a part of.
Okay.
And their primary motivation for multi-streaming is to give the audience more choice. So these people here are thinking they want to be able to give their audience the option to watch on any kind of different platform, which makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into how to do it, how to multi-stream. So the first kind of method that we're going to highlight are cloud-based restreaming tools. Now, this includes platforms like restream.io, Switchboard, Caster is another one, as well as a few kind of CDN type solutions. So Wowza has a streaming cloud service. Our friends at Streamshark are also able to take your input, one stream, and then redistribute it to YouTube, Facebook, and other CDNs. So the way this works is that you have your video and audio sources. They go into an encoder. That could be a software encoder installed in a computer, or a hardware encoder like Perl 2, for example. And then you're sending a single stream up to a cloud restreaming service. And then from there, it redistributes to various platforms. Now, the benefit of this is that you don't need too much bandwidth locally. So you're just sending one stream, and that's all you need your bandwidth. That's how much bandwidth you need. Because if you were to multi-stream from your location, then you would need to multiply by however many streams you're sending up, right? So you're going to need twice as much bandwidth, or 3 times as much bandwidth if you're sending 3 streams. With a cloud restreaming service, you're just sending 1 stream, which means it's really nice for operators who have limited bandwidth. They can stream from wherever they are and then redistribute that to various CDNs.
Yeah, and by limited, really what you kind of mean is like I'm going to say in Canada, that's normal bandwidth. I don't know too many people who in their houses can send up 2, 3, or 4 streams at a time. Like, we're all trying to do it right now from our houses, and we sometimes struggle just sending a really consistent, high quality single stream up. So being able to restream in the cloud would solve problems for quite a lot of people, unless you have a really robust internet provider.
Exactly, George. And on this slide, it says CMS. It's supposed to say CDN. I'm sorry. So, yeah, CDN. Late night mistake. So as far as other pros, you get really nice analytics generally. So for Restream, Restream.io, they have really nice comprehensive statistics on all the platforms that you're going live to. So it's going to tell you exactly how many viewers are on Facebook, on YouTube, who they are. They actually have ability to gather that data as well. How long are they watching for? So you don't have to go to each individual platform and collect individual statistics. You have it all in one place.
That's nice just to have that one dashboard. Yeah,
it's so nice. It's so nice. Speaking from experience, we don't have that option, and it's a really good one. There's also chat aggregation where you don't have to go to every single platform and check everything, which is also really, really nice. And then kind of on the downside, this isn't a one-stop shop, right? For all your streaming needs. You do need to have that encoder part before it reaches the cloud streaming service. So you do need to figure out that part anyway, right? This also adds another point of failure to your streaming solution. You're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket. So if something goes wrong with the cloud restreaming service, then you might be out of luck with your stream entirely. There's also, I've heard from people that some services aren't great at transcoding. So which means when they ingest your signal, let's say at 1080p, and then other services are requesting some other encoding profile. Sometimes that transcoding part kind of messes up the stream a little bit. I know platforms are working on that, on improving that. But I saw some reports.
It's nice to have that control over your encoding profile for every destination. So it might be nice to send Facebook exactly what they want. Send them 720p if that's what they're asking for. If they have different audio profiles, send them exactly that. Because if you just send everybody the same encoding profile, they might not all be able to handle it the same way. We had early troubles with Facebook. I remember their transcoding was horrific. It's gotten better now. They also support 1080p, so it's not much of an issue for us anymore. But at the time, we certainly struggled with it. And I have no doubt that other people just can't transcode all that well on the fly.
Right. And just as an example of what this could look like, very simple, you go to their website in your browser, and then it offers you a bunch of different places you can stream, right? So they have this is Restream.io, just as an example. They actually have a free service if you want to restream to one of these destinations. If you want to restream to Facebook Live or a custom RTMP, then you're going to have to upgrade, but it's fairly simple from there. So you select where you want to go live. They have integrations with each service, so you enter your credentials, and then Restream.io knows where to restream. And they have a lot of options. These are not all the options. If you were on the website and you would scroll down, they have like 40 different options of where you can stream. This is another example called Caster. Just shows the dashboard. You're going live to Facebook, to YouTube, to Twitch, and then you can toggle whether you want to stream there or not. Nice statistics. You can also record in the cloud, which is also a neat feature. All right.
Nice. Yeah, they all look really simple. We've used a couple. I know we've used Restream in the past, and of course we use Switchboard. Switchboard is integrated with our Webcaster X2 hardware encoder, so we've had some good luck with the Restream services, and like you say, they're pretty affordable as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So now, why don't we jump into the next way to multistream, which is using streaming software, multistreaming. So in this scenario, you have a streaming software installed on your computer. You have your audio and video sources. For the video source, you might need a capture card to go into the computer. And then from the streaming software, you stream to various destinations. Now, this is fairly common on a lot of streaming software. I learned that some streaming software, what they actually do is they use the help of a restreaming service. I learned this yesterday, George. So for example, vMix,
oh, that's interesting.
they actually subscribe to, or it's included in the subscription to vMix, restream.io. So when you are multistreaming using vMix, you're actually restreaming using restream.io.
That's interesting. I didn't know they would do that, because it also adds more latency to that stream as well. Like anytime you do a restream, you're adding a certain amount of latency as well. So I'd want to know that.
Yeah. And then, for example, with Wirecast, they kind of offer both options. So with Wirecast, you can go live from their software. You can multistream from the software itself, but you can also use Telestream Cloud if you have limited bandwidth. And if you want to just use that, they have their own restreaming service, basically.
Sure. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to show, this is an example of Wirecast. You basically create, if you see there on the left, you create the destinations where you want to go live. You configure all your encoding settings. Let me use my mouse here. Destination encoding, address, you enter all of that. And then you have toggling options as well. So you can tick it on or tick it off, depending on if you want the stream to go to that destination or not. And then you can add and remove them right here on the left. And then just quickly mentioning the pros and cons. So it's a little bit different from cloud restreaming. The pros is that you don't have to have a separate tool for restreaming. You have your mixing and switching done in one place, and multi-streaming as well. And it's less expensive. It could be less expensive than a hardware solution, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But as far as cons go, it does require significant bandwidth. So with every new stream you add, you have to kind of add that bandwidth, that upload bandwidth that you need. Similarly, this puts a lot more stress on your machine. So you're going to need a pretty powerful computer, because the CPU load can really get up there with each added stream that you're encoding and sending up. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I guess that points to the general advice we talk about between choosing a software encoder or a hardware encoder, that the horsepower that you need to do what you want to do, you better have that covered. Otherwise, everything will go belly up. That's one of the reasons people buy our Perl systems, is because they're really powerful and capable of doing multi-encoding and sending up streams to many different places without really experiencing dropped frames, that kind of thing. There are limits to it, of course, but you should be able to get to a couple of different platforms without any trouble.
That's right.
And we have a couple of people in our chat right now asking about our Perl systems. Ricardo was looking forward to us talking about how we're going to do this on Perl. And I think his name was Mark, talking about how he uses Perl Mini to do this as well. So that's great. I think that's probably where we're headed in this next section. So
exactly. So let's get right into that. Streaming hardware. We are going to be talking about Perl as the primary example. So the idea is very similar to streaming software, but instead of a computer, you have a dedicated device that can do switching and streaming and recording all in one. You connect your sources directly, video sources, audio sources, no capture card required. And then you're using the hardware to restream to other CDNs and platforms. So the pros of this is that it is pretty reliable, right? So this box, this dedicated device, is built specifically for encoding, streaming, and recording video. So it knows how to do that really well. For example, our Perl 2 is able to restream, to encode up to 6 streams at 1080p and 30 frames per second. So that's a lot. And we're talking about individual channels here. So individual encoding profiles. From a single encoding profile, you can stream even to even more destinations than that. It all depends on your bandwidth. So those are the pros, and then the cons again. You need that bandwidth, right? You have to have that bandwidth available at your location. Otherwise, it's gonna get choppy. It might get choppy. Mm-hmm. So let's talk very briefly about what Perl is. George, why don't you walk us through what is a Perl system?
Sure. So I'm sure a lot of people here who are doing live streaming have looked at different options to do live streaming. And one of those ways might be we're using, like you said, vMix on a computer with capture cards to bring in those signals. The reason people tend to like Perl is because Perl simplifies all of that for you. So you don't have as many cables, you don't have as many pieces of equipment that you need. Yeah, the audio can go right into the device as well, so you don't have to worry about capturing your audio. And because it's a purpose-built system, you know it's going to do a really good job at streaming, and it's probably not going to crash or have system updates come up at any point. And you can operate it, anybody can operate it. So if you're a really smart person and you're really technically savvy, I should say, and you're good at computers, you're probably going to have no problem setting up a computer streaming setup, and it's going to work pretty well, and you might be very happy with it. But a lot of our customers are trying to set it up where they want it to go faster and they don't want to have to mess around with it too much. So that's where Perl systems come into place. They also have really nice features like building these beautiful layouts that we're looking at right now. So we're using this for this webinar today. We're using a Perl 2 system to broadcast all this, to do all the switching, ingest all the inputs. These are networked inputs, obviously, because Marta and I are remote, and then do all of our broadcasting as well. So they're a pretty handy all-in-one production system. And
that's right.
If you're put your questions in the chat here too. If you have questions specifically about Perl, we can dive a little deeper. At the end of this webinar today, we'll have a Q&A session, and we'll answer your questions about multi-streaming and any other kind of Perl-related question you might have.
And Perls are really easy to use. So as George mentioned, we have a Perl 2 as our kind of production mixer. Our producers behind the scenes are helping us do all this switching, all this nice switching that you guys are seeing. And then George and I are also using a Perl to send our SRT stream up, which is why we're looking so nice right now. Not really Zoom quality, but way better quality. All the sources you can connect directly to Perl, as I mentioned. So HDMI, SDI, USB, NDI as well. Professional audio, XLR, TRS. So super easy to use, super easy to figure out. And it can do multi-streaming. So let's talk about how to do that on Perl.
Yeah, you can give us a little demo, right, Marta?
That's right.
You're going to show us on your own Perl system there?
Yes. So just very briefly, want to mention that there are kind of two ways to do it. mentioned it before. So the first way is streaming using just one encoding profile, right? So you have your, let's say 1080p at 30 frames per second, and you want to stream that encoding profile to a bunch of places. That's one way to do it, and Perl can send more streams like that because it requires only one level of encoding. And the other way is multi-encoding, where Perl creates different encoding profiles if they're required for individual platforms. So there's that kind of encoding ladder. So I'm going to share my other screen right now. Let's see. So I'm going to do that real quick, and I'm going to share my UI, Perl Web UI. Here it is. Okay. So hopefully we can see that now. There we go. Perfect. So what I want to show you guys first is how to do streaming using just one encoding profile. So here on the left, we have channels. And if you're doing just one encoding profile, you're only going to be using one channel. So let's go, actually it wasn't in encoding first. So you set up your encoding profile however you want, your frame size, your frame rate, bit rate if you need. You're going to hit apply. And then going into streaming, into the streaming tab, you're going to see that you can add a new stream. Now I have a Perl Mini, and it's pretty similar to a Perl 2 system. It's kind of like the younger brother. You can do RTMP push, an RTMP stream. We can do MPEG dash as well, SRT, HLS. So you pick whatever profile protocol you need. And then you enter all your regular information here. You hit apply. And then if you want to stream it out to more places, you just create a new stream. So let's say this one is going to be YouTube. And this one's going to be Facebook. Enter all your data. Didn't save, sorry. Facebook. And you can create as many as you need, as much bandwidth as you have. It all depends on your upload bandwidth from here, essentially. There's a neat feature where you can start all streams at the same time. You don't have to do it individually. But now let's talk about if you want to do multi-encoding. So let's say you need one stream to be at 1080p at 30 frames per second, and the other one 720p, also at 30 frames per second. So what you would do is you would create kind of one program out, which is going to be your main channel. You're going to create all the layouts that you need. Once you have this channel ready, this is going to be your main program out channel, you're going to create another channel. So in this case, I have this multi-encode 1, which is going to be my second channel. This is layouts. So in here, you're going to configure the streaming settings that you need for this second encode. And then in your layouts, I have a lot of them say here. This is something I used for a painting demo that we did. You're going to add a new layout, and you're going to select the program out channel as your source. Add new item, video source, and I'm going to say channels. So I'm going to select program out as my channel. So I don't really have anything there right now, but now we're kind of creating a loop back. So whatever is happening in your program out, all the switching that you do, any changes that you have there are going to apply automatically to this second encode that you do. And from there, you're basically ready to go. Let's see here. So streaming. And here you're gonna create your streams as well. On Perl, there's a really nice feature called the single touch streaming, which means on the display panel on Pearl, you can click a single button and all your streams are gonna start automatically. So I'm going to exit this now and I'm gonna stop sharing the UI, the web UI, and I'm going to share the presentation again. All right, there we go.
Thanks, Marta.
So I hope that made sense.
It made sense to me, but I've been there and done that. So I'm not a great judge of that, but I do know it's pretty straightforward. That's one of the things people like about our Perl systems is that if you poke around in the UI for a little bit, generally people come back saying, you know what, that was actually really easy to use. So because you can kind of configure it however you want. It's really open system that way. You can do what you want with it, and you're not going to find many roadblocks there.
That's right. So in terms of which system can handle the streaming load that the Perl systems can handle, so Perl 2 can do 2 streams at 1080p, encode 2 different channels at 1080p 60 frames per second, or up to 6 individual encoding channels, 1080p 30 frames per second, and one solid 4K streaming at 30 frames per second. Now, these are like kind of the base. Sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. It's tricky, right, to explain what that actually means. Like, I know we're talking about how it can encode that many, but it's not really the same as how many it can stream.
Exactly.
Can stream, I don't know how many. We've never really pushed that. I'm sure our QA lab has, but we've done 4, 5, 6 streams out of a Perl, and it has been okay. Really, we've never had a pipe big enough, an internet bandwidth big enough to do much more than that. So I'd love it if our customers would let us know how far they've been able to push a Perl 2 system or a Perl Mini.
Exactly. And Perl Mini, again, is kind of the younger brother. It can do a little bit less. But again, yeah, we haven't really tested how many streams you can successfully publish. These are the general guidelines for like a really solid, safe stream. But I'm sure you can do much, much more than that.
You sure can. If you're not changing your encoding settings for every different destination, the limit is going to be quite high.
And another bonus with the Perl is that you can do local recording as well. So you're going to have your stream backed up locally in case anything happens, and you have that asset recorded directly on the Perl.
Right.
That's the beauty of it. All right, so I think we kind of covered most of it, most of what we had planned. We would love to take your questions if you guys have any. George, what is it looking like out there?
It's looking good. We've got lots of people chatting in the chat here. People talking about our Perl systems, which is great. And there are some questions in here already. I've been chatting with our moderators for this about some of them already, just to make sure I get the right answers. So I'm going to take care of some little technical ones here at first, because I know the answers to these ones already.
Go ahead.
Daniel, let's see. Oh, no, Mark. Mark was asking about switching on a Perl Mini. How many layouts can he use per show? He says he's using only 4. And the truth is, Mark, layouts is not a real consequence. There's not too many consequences to using a lot of layouts on a Perl Mini, because we don't encode all those layouts. So you should be able to get quite a few layouts before you notice performance issues. Most of our customers use 4 to 6 layouts just because it gets hard to organize them at that point. But I think you could probably push that further. Cameron, our producer, if you saw what he's doing in his Perl 2 right now, the number of layouts that he uses for a channel is obscene. And his biggest problem is that they get disorganized and it's hard to keep track of them all and switch them. So I think you can go well beyond 4 for your next show, and let us know how it goes. If you have more questions about it, just jump on with our support team.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at the questions too, George, and
Great.
Here's one from Daniel. Specifically, what kind of bandwidth are we talking about?
Sure. Well, we can talk about what we're doing right here today, Daniel. So I'm sending up 4,000 kilobytes per second to for this broadcast, just from my feed into this broadcast. And you can kind of gauge what that quality looks like. for the most part, doing 1080p at 4 or 5 megabits per second is going to look really good. But you also have to consider that you need a bit of headroom beyond that. Meaning, if you send up exactly 4,000 kilobytes per second and you have some kind of internet problem where you don't quite have that, you don't really want to hit the limit on what you can send. You want to have a bit of headroom. So I think our support team generally recommends, between 30 and 50% headroom. So if you're aiming for 4 megabits per second, send up 6, that kind of thing.
Right.
So when it comes to multi-streaming, if you're assuming it's 6 megabits per second per channel, so maybe it's 6 megabits per second to get to Facebook, and you also want to go to YouTube, then you would need 12 megabits. So the math is pretty straightforward on it all. But just start with what kind of quality you want for a single stream, and then multiply it by the number of destinations you want.
Right, with some headroom.
With some headroom. And if you're going to a cloud restreaming service, you don't need to worry about that at all. You just need to get that one stream up in nice quality to that service, and then they take care of all of that other overload for all those other services.
Right, but we do recommend definitely having that headroom. 2 times as much is great if you can afford that. So don't cut it super close.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's another one from Daniel. What's the backbone supporting all these streams?
So, today I guess that would be our Pearl 2 system, which is in our studio in Ottawa, Canada. It is streaming to Crowdcast today over RTMP, and it's what we use for all of our live streaming, is our Pearl 2 or a Pearl Mini in some cases. So I have an actually original Pearl here in my office. I don't know what you have in your place, Marta.
I have a Pearl Mini. I'm using a Pearl Mini.
Okay, so we've got the whole lineup of Pearls in use today for this broadcast.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to try to find that slide where we show our setup. But meanwhile, okay. I will throw another question at you. Let's see. Screencast.
I should just let everybody know, just before you go on, Marta, like we've covered all the content for the webinar today, but we'll stick around here and answer any of your questions. So if you want to hang out and chat, put your chat questions into the chat or into the question thing, even better, and we'll be here for a while.
That's right. People are asking if we have any solution to streaming to Instagram.
We don't have any solutions for streaming to Instagram. And as far as I know, there are no solutions for streaming to Instagram except for the app itself. This was, according to my research, when they first announced live streaming. But they could have opened up their API to allow other vendors like us to do live streaming to Instagram. But I can tell you right now, we don't have any way of getting into Instagram. But maybe our moderators will be watching this, and they will correct me if I'm wrong on this. I have no doubt, and I'll update you accordingly.
I think you're right, George. I think that's kind of a lot of people are asking for that, but Instagram has their own ways of live streaming, and I think some people were able to hack it and pull out the
people like Skunkworks. They figured out the RTMP destination and they made it work. So there's some unverified, go to Reddit and check it out. And I'm sure somebody there will post a solution.
Yeah. I'm still looking for that diagram, George.
Okay. Do you want me to go into the questions?
Not in this presentation.
Diagram hunting?
I can ask you another question. So someone is asking here, how would you organize a film festival live stream premiere?
Say that again? A film festival?
Oh, yeah. George, how would you go about organizing a film festival live stream premiere? Do you have any thoughts on that?
When I do my film festival premieres.
Yeah, when you do your film festivals.
I use the premiere feature on YouTube. I think Facebook has that as well, which does allow you to kind of put a gate on your live streaming and build an audience there in advance of it. We've done it a few times for our live shows. If that's what you're talking about, that sort of premiere function, I know it's available on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure it's available on Facebook. But in all honesty, I've never done a film festival, so I don't know exactly what kind of detail you're looking for, Daniel. Ask another question, and we'll try and get more specific on it. Marta, we've got a comment from Samuel talking about how Yellow Duck app streams to Instagram. So there you go. Check out Yellow Duck app, unverified by me, but who knows? Maybe that's a good solution.
All right. Well, we have something there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you, Samuel.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sam. Here's a question. Is setting up an NDI output similar to setting up an RTMP stream? NDI output.
It's a little different because NDI can be discovered on your network. So as soon as you put it out on a network, it's not really a point-to-point kind of connection, right? So as soon as you put it out on your local network, anybody on your local network can use a discovery tool and find that NDI output. So it's just kind of different, I would say. Whereas RTMP is very much from me to you. It's a one-to-one kind of connection there.
Right. And also, I think Perl can't do NDI output. It can ingest NDI streams. It can do NDI output.
Yes, it can.
Oh, wait, you're right. Okay.
And if it can't, I'll get slapped by our moderators very, very shortly. But I'm almost certain it can. I just haven't done it very much. I haven't had a lot of applications to do NDI output on it, so I'm a little fuzzy on it.
All right. So I was able to find that slide that I was looking for. I'm hoping that it loaded up in the presentation that I'm sharing right now. Our producer will let us know, hopefully. So I just wanted to go over how we are doing the stream right now. Ah, there it is. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yes. So the way we are streaming right now is using SRT to our producer, right? So our final stream to Crowdcast is still RTMP, but to contribute our video and audio to our producer, we're both using Perl. George is using a Perl 1, the original Perl, and I'm using a Perl Mini. So we have all our sources connected to our local devices. And from there, we're sending a really nice, high-quality SRT stream to our producer to a Perl. And then we're using Zoom as kind of a back channel for communication. So George and I are technically hearing each other over Zoom right now. And then all of that is getting pushed to Crowdcast, and that's how you guys are seeing us in nice quality right now.
Yeah. It's kind of a complex setup for new people to streaming. You need a lot of equipment for this one, obviously. But it does allow you to do this fully remote broadcast where everybody's all over the world, and somehow our latency is all perfectly in tune, and we look, you look great, I look okay, and but hopefully the people are happy with it. So I see a bunch more questions in here in Crowdcast. Marta, should we carry on?
Yes.
See what we can answer.
There's another question I think one of our moderators was able to answer for Mark, but let's read it out loud. So the process of starting a live stream. Do I launch the stream first on Perl and then start on YouTube, or is it the other way around?
Yeah, it can kind of go both ways. Like our moderator says, certain platforms allow you to just start streaming on your encoder, and then when they receive it, they make it go live. It's very simple, very linear. But other platforms, which are a little bit more advanced, I'd say, and they allow you to preview your stream on their platform, like YouTube. It's really great. You can send it to YouTube. You can go to YouTube and go, how's it looking? Is the quality good? Can I hear myself? And then push go live. So it's really nice to have that kind of green room functionality on these platforms. But it really depends on the platform. I know YouTube, you can do it both ways on YouTube. And Facebook, Marta, I don't remember if Facebook works that way or not. I think Facebook is just you push it to go live and boom, it goes live. Do you remember?
On Facebook, I think it happens automatically on Facebook if it's a scheduled
too, yeah.
if it's a scheduled stream.
Yeah, so you kind of have to poke around in your destination and find out how they do it. And like we always say, do a test, set up a fake group, private group, and do your tests there, and then you'll figure it out. Because the first one, it's challenging. Like live streaming does have kind of a steep curve as you're
learning curve.
It. Steep learning curve. Thank you. So that first stream, you really want to practice it.
Mm-hmm. And I think we had a really good question, George, about media playback. Someone is asking here, Mark is asking, is it possible to add a previously recorded video to our live stream using the Mini? So that's a question about media playback, right, George?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can do media playback if you use another device to play back that media. So for example, at the beginning of this broadcast, there were some little bumper intro with some graphics, and sometimes we'll play short videos during a broadcast. So what we usually do is either play that on another laptop and bring that into Pearl as an input. It's not the most elegant solution because you have to kind of push play and hope you don't see the controls on it. Another way to do it is to use a graphics program like New Blue Effects. Again, it's not totally elegant because it requires some pre-rendering of that video to make it work. But there's definitely ways to bring in media playback onto a Pearl Mini Mark. Contact our support team if you want to know more of a step-by-step walkthrough on that, and they'd be happy to help you on that.
Totally. There are ways you can do it with NDI, through NDI, if it's on the same, if the device is on the same network. HDMI as well.
Pearl Mini doesn't support NDI, but if it's Pearl 2, you're
right. Right, on the Pearl 2. I'm assuming Mark has a Mini. Mark, let us know.
Yeah,
if
he
you...
does. He does.
He does.
Some
Okay.
Comments earlier about how he was doing some live streaming on it.
Perfect. Okay, let's see. So we answered the Instagram question, and I think that's about all we have for today, George.
That's great. Okay. Thanks, Marta, and thanks to everybody who watched today. That was fun. I knew this one would be a little bit shorter, but that's okay. It's not a huge topic. I hope everybody can find a quick and easy way to get into multi-streaming.
That's right. I hope so too. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us at info@epiphan.com. There's also a button right underneath the video if you want to learn more about Perl systems. And please sign up for more of our webinars. Go to epiphan.com/webinars. We have a few really cool ones coming up. And on Thursday, just tomorrow, we have our live show. So please join us on YouTube. Find the Epiphan video channel. And we go live at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And we talk about all things live streaming. So join us. It's a bit more relaxed than this webinar. We chat, we have fun. So be sure to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody for watching. And thanks, Marta. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.